Hi beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of the To Nurture Your Soul podcast. Good morning if you're watching this or listening to this in the morning. Good afternoon if you're listening to it in the evening or nighttime. I hope you've had an amazing day if you are watching this or listening to this at nighttime. And if you're listening to this or watching this in the morning, I hope that you're about to have one of the best days ever. I'm sure you are. I'm manifesting that for you. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am so excited to be back. I'm so excited, and today I have a massive filming day of like 3-4 episodes of this podcast. So I'm just so excited to sit down and get straight into it and chit chat with you guys today. I did want to say at the beginning of this video, thank you so much to all of you that listened or watched the previous episode and who loved it and left me so many amazing comments, and for all of the DMs that I got on Instagram, both my personal and business account. I just want to say thank you so much to every single one of you. Honestly, those comments made my whole entire week last week. Getting to sit down and do something that I've just been so excited to do for so long, but I've been so nervous to do for so long, honestly just felt so nice. Like, I had the most fun ever filming the last episode. I just wanted to say thank you. I just appreciate you all so freaking much, and I was so incredibly anxious to sit down and upload that podcast and video. I feel like a podcast in particular is something that is so incredibly vulnerable, especially the one that I want to create for you guys. I want to be able to sit down and talk about difficult subjects and topics. I want to be able to open up and share my past experiences with you guys. I feel like this podcast in particular, especially because I do want to open up the conversation about mental health and talk about the difficult things, talk about things that have gone on in my life that have helped shape me into the person that I am today and give me the views and outlook on life that I have. I don't know. It's just a very vulnerable thing to sit down and do, and it's very intimidating. So I really, truly do appreciate every single comment that I did get last week after I uploaded the last video. They made my whole entire week. I'm gonna stop rambling on about that. You guys know. I love ya. I appreciate ya. So I don't know if you can hear. I can hear it in the headphones, so I'm sure that you can probably hear a little bit, which I think will probably add to the vibe, to be honest. But it is pouring down rain outside, like the sky full of clouds. Pouring down rain. It's one of those cozy rainy days that is just going to be like dark and gloomy all day, and it's the perfect vibe, if I'm going to be honest. So the main reason I'm sitting down and pre-filming all of these podcasts today, as you guys know, less than a week until the show. So I want to try and pre-film these podcasts so that I can still have them going up while I am away. So if you plan on regularly listening, the next couple videos will be pre-filmed. I'm super excited. Less than a week until the show. I am sure most of you are getting so sick of me talking about it, but don't worry, there's only going to be a couple more weeks and then it's done. I'm going to be moving on to the next subject that I'm going to like hyperfixate on for the next couple months. I don't know what that's going to be, but stay tuned to find out, I guess. So yeah, that's the main thing going on in my life at the moment. Over this past weekend, I took the time to fully go through my office. I have packed up every single box that I need to go. So literally everything is done. The only things that I have left to do on my to-do list is to wrap 5 more boxes of wrap 5 more boxes of books, which should be easy. I'll jump on TikTok live and wrap them with you all during this week. So that should be fun and not too difficult. And then I'm waiting on one more shipment, which is the A4 notebooks, which I was emailing the guy when I ordered them. I was like, I have a strict deadline, which I told him was this Friday, today, the day that this podcast is going up. So follow me on Instagram if you guys aren't already, or follow the business account. I definitely will be posting whether or not I get them, because if we don't get them, it's going to be extremely stressful. So stressful. It's going to be a lot. But we're manifesting all good things. The guy that I spoke to via email told me that there shouldn't be any reason as to why they won't get here on Friday. So I probably should email him today and double check on that just to make sure that everything is going smoothly, calm my anxiety, you know. Those are the main things that I have left to do for the show, other than all the little social media bits and pieces that I need to do to continue to have content go up while I'm away. So today is my podcast filming day. I'll spend the rest of the week editing them. I also am vlogging this week. This week is going to be the start of the weekly vlogs for the show, which is very exciting. So I'm going to bring my vlog camera with me while I am away, so that those of you that are excited to see the behind the scenes and what goes into all of it afterwards, I will have vlogs going up so that you guys can see them as well. It is going to be pretty hectic while I am away. I honestly don't think I'm gonna have time to edit them, but I will be filming everything, and I promise you all that vlogs will go up probably when I get back. So the podcast still will be going up every week, fingers crossed, if I can get them all done this week, and then the vlogs will continue as soon as I get home. So that is the update on all of the show stuff. Very, very exciting. In terms of like my emotions, my mental health, and how I'm feeling now compared to last week, I think the reality of it all is like fully starting to set in. I obviously am still very confident, very excited, very determined. I'm still all of the things that I spoke about in the last episode, but I feel like a little bit of like, I don't know, anxiety is coming through. I think the back of mind internal limiting beliefs are starting to slowly make their way to the front of my mind, which I'm trying to remind myself every single day is normal. Being someone in business, especially someone who owns a very small business, a fairly new business, I'm trying to remind myself that, you know, it's normal to have these negative thoughts pop into your mind every now and again, especially because it's only been recently that I have been really trying to rewire my subconscious mind to be a healthier and more positive space. And I think the little negative seed in the back of my mind comes from, you know, growing up, my upbringing, and just a lot of the things that I've been through in life. I really truly do believe that we are a product of the environment that we grew up in, as well as just a product of who we surround ourselves with. So I'm trying to remind myself whenever those negative thoughts do pop back into my mind, I'm trying to remind myself that I am a completely different person now. I've done the work on myself, and the way that I deal with that is allowing that negative thought to come to the front of my head. I'm acknowledging it, and I'm kind of doing a visualization tool or method to get rid of that thought. So I'm literally picturing myself, and sometimes I physically do it if like my brain and imagination isn't as like strong or powerful that day. As soon as I have a negative thought or emotion about anything really, but at the moment a lot of them have been about the show, as soon as I have one of those come to the forefront of my mind, I envision myself physically picking that thought out of my mind, throwing it away, and watching it fly away like a bird. And recently I have found that the most powerful and helpful visualization tool to remove those limiting beliefs from my mind. And that's not to say that I am trying to get rid of any negative emotion that comes to my mind, because negative emotions and feelings are very valid and normal things to feel. Feeling anxious and overwhelmed and scared and sad and like all of those things are normal. So I don't try and pluck those feelings and emotions out of my head and like throw them away. It's more so the limiting beliefs that come into my head, like you're not going to make enough money, what if this all fails, what if you can't do this on your own. Those are the types of thoughts and limiting beliefs that I choose to visualize, the picking them out of my mind, throwing them away and letting them fly off into the distance, because I know that that negative self-talk and those limiting thoughts are going to do nothing beneficial for me, and those thoughts are really going to do nothing but damage my manifestation, damage my confidence going into this show, and just make me feel shit about myself. And I definitely don't need that going forward and moving into the next few weeks for me. So yeah, I think that's kind of a little mental health update on how I've been feeling for the show. I obviously want to continue to be as open as I possibly can with you guys about how I'm feeling for the show. I've said this from the beginning, from the very first email that I got in my inbox from them. I have wanted to document the process the entire way, like the entirety of it. The business side, the behind the scenes, the emotional side, the finance side, how I've struggled, how I've been on top of the world with it. Like, I truly have wanted to document the entire process, because when I sat down to look up videos, other small businesses, podcast, I looked up so many different things to try and hear about other people's experiences going into this show as a small business. I found nothing. Nada. Absolutely nothing. I know that my brand and business has a lot of other small business girlies following, and I know that there is a lot of other business owners that do want to try and go into the show next year. So yeah, I don't know. I have wanted to document the process the whole entire time, and hopefully this is helpful to someone, or even just opens up the conversation and shows anyone, whether you have a business or whether you don't, that what you see on Instagram and TikTok is just not, it's just not it. Like, there's so much more behind the scenes, and there's so many stresses, and there's so many challenging times that I don't think a lot of other people show. I just want to be open, honest, because I truly do believe, which is the whole point of this podcast, that being open and honest about difficult subjects or taboo topics is the only way that everyone is going to grow and understand and learn. I've gone on a bit of a tangent here, haven't I? I have. I've been talking a long time, and we haven't even gotten past the intro part of this podcast. But to be fair, the last podcast was pretty short. I did get a lot of comments and a lot of feedback from you guys saying that the podcast was too short. It needed to be longer, which I 100% agree. I actually have a photo shoot tomorrow, which is going to be so much fun. It's my first photo shoot that I've done in a really long time. It's going to be something very, very casual. I don't really do photo shoots anymore. I used to do them all the time before lockdown. They were so much fun. They gave me so much confidence. They made me feel so good. But I think now, just as I'm getting older and my priorities are changing, they're just not at the top of my priority list. You know, other things make me feel confident, other things make me feel good, but I do miss doing them a little bit. Like, they are really, really fun, and I actually ended up getting a really good opportunity with another small business who actually has a Westfield store. So it's gonna be so fun, so exciting. She DM'd me on Instagram and she asked if I wanted to go in tomorrow morning, actually. So I'm filming this on Monday. I'm going in 8:30 Tuesday morning, and we're gonna take some photos for her business's Instagram, which I think is going to be so much fun. I'm very excited. It is a paid modeling job too. Like, stop it. I don't think I've ever been paid to model. Like, I've done jobs for free where I've collaborated with photographers, but this is the first brand shoot that I'm doing, I guess. And yeah, she offered to pay me, which is going to be very exciting. So I cannot wait to do that. I think it only should go for an hour, she said. An hour and a half. So make sure you guys follow my personal Instagram if you want to see the photos. I'm sure I will share the photos that she shares. Something a little bit more fun and creative where I don't really have to do anything other than show up and like show off the clothes, which I think will be a very relaxing and nice creative thing to do, where I don't actually have to think super hard about the content that I'm taking. With having my business and with doing social media as like my job now, I definitely feel like the fun, creative, just do it because you want to do it side has taken a bit of a back seat. And at the forefront of my mind, whenever I do create content, I'm like, this is for a brand, this is for my business, like this has to be perfect. Which, going into this shoot day tomorrow, I obviously am going to go in with the same mindset. Like, this is a job, this has to be good. I have to show up for this other small business. But I don't know, I think just a little bit of the pressure is taken off. Like, I don't have to worry about how the angles look, how the shot looks, if everything's in frame. All I have to do is show up. And that is the easiest part, in my opinion. And I think that it's going to be honestly something that is going to be so good for me, especially before this show. It's going to be a way that I can get creative again, while also just having a little bit to forget about all the other stresses that I have going on at the moment. So yeah, that's gonna be very exciting. That's my little life update. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please leave me a comment down below. Let me know any exciting things that are happening in your life, or if you guys are listening to this on any podcast streaming platform, please send me an Instagram DM. I would love to know what exciting things you have coming up for you this week. I hope that you're taking the time to do at least one nice thing for yourself this week. Just one thing. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. Even if you make your favorite meal for breakfast or lunch one day, do at least one thing for yourself this week. Pretty please. That would make me happy, and I'm positive that it would make you happy as well. Now that we've had a big old catch up at the beginning of this podcast, I am now going to get into the main topic, which is how running a small business affects mental health. And for this subject, I am very excited because we got our first email through to the To Nurture Your Soul podcast email. So for those of you that are new or that didn't listen to the last podcast, we actually have an email where you can submit any advice questions or topics that you would like to hear me talk about on the podcast. So the email that you can write into is just tonuretureyoursoulpodcast@gmail.com. So if you guys want to help me out with topic suggestions, or if you just have any questions that you would like me to answer on the podcast, you can write into that email. Once again, it's tonuretureyoursoulpodcast@gmail.com. So Melanie's email says, "Hi lovely, first of all, I'm super duper proud of you for continuing to push yourself and put yourself out there. You have come so far." You guys are so sweet. Like, honestly, where would I be without you guys? I'd be nowhere. Just that one sentence alone has made my day. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Secondly, in terms of advice, when working from home as a small business, how do you manage to keep your workspace separate from your home/living space, both physically and mentally, as well as managing your time? So this is a particular topic that I feel extremely qualified to talk on. As someone who lives on their own, but also who lives in a very, very tiny place, I feel like I definitely can try my best to talk on how I separate work from living, and also work from, personal life, how to divvy up time, and how to just make a healthy work-life balance. And this is something that I will continue to be working on for the entirety of the time that I work for myself, which fingers crossed will be forever. We're manifesting that. But yeah, it's something that is a constant struggle, and I think it's something that if you do it as well, you will know that it's just constantly evolving and changing, and there's always something new that you can learn. And as you grow and as your business grows, things will just constantly be changing, and you will find new and better ways each and every day. So like I said, it is hard for me because my house is so small. Eventually, my goal is to be able to have a little bit of a bigger house where I can fully separate my work and life underneath the same roof. But for a lot of us brand new small business owners, a lot of us don't have the luxury of having a spare bedroom or a spare garage or a spare space in general that we can fully dedicate to business, where we can close the door at the end of the day and just forget about it once the clock goes past 5. You guys have seen my house. If you guys have seen the vlogs, she's tiny. She's very, very small, and my office is actually in my living room. So I kind of section it up in a way where I have a really big desk. It has my computer on it. It has all of my books. It has all of my work stuff, my Cricut, the coloring books that I'm working on at the moment with you guys on live. Like, all of my work stuff is on the desk. And then over the other side of the room, I have my couch. And the couch is the one place where the lines can get a little bit blurry. Sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit lazy, I'll do my work from the couch. But I feel like that is a normal thing. If you work from home, there are some days where you just want to take full advantage of the fact that you do work for yourself from home and you just perch yourself up on the couch and you get real comfy. I try not to do those days very often because a lot of the time it tends to be very slow work. It tends to be work that I take a lot of breaks with, that I get very tired and end up having a midday nap on the couch with. Moral of that story is that my office does tend to creep its way over to my comfy couch section, and it is extremely difficult physically in the way of like, I have a desk, I sit there all day, but the temptation of my couch is like 2 feet away. It's like right there. So it's challenging physically, but it's also challenging mentally, because when you do cross that line and when you do get a little bit, comfy cozy in your living space instead of your working space, it's hard because you end the day and you feel like you haven't been productive, you feel like you've been lazy, and it's not a great feeling. So yeah, a few ways in which I like to combat this and try to sit at my desk all day, which I personally think is very important. I will allow myself to have those couch days on Fridays or early Monday mornings when, Mondays, they're hard. They're difficult for everyone, I think. Few of the ways in which I try to keep my 2 spaces separate, living in a very small space, is that I always try to keep my space tidy and organized. So having a particular place for everything helps so much. And also at the beginning and end of each workday, doing a tidy of that space. I find that a lot of the afternoons or nights where I don't take the time to clean up the work from the day, it tends to spill on over into my living space and I can't actually fully relax and turn off. And if you are a business owner, if you're self-employed, if your hobby is your job and you love what you do, you would know that it's extremely difficult to separate the two, especially when you do have that passion for it. There's so many times where I haven't cleaned up my work or organized things and put things away before the end of the day, and I go to sit on my couch for my rest and relaxation time, which is incredibly needed if you are a small business owner or you work from home. Taking the time each day to have your you time, your time where you sit down, you plug in, you recharge. Those moments are so incredibly important in ensuring that you are showing up for yourself the next day as the best possible person that you can be. And sometimes when I don't take the time to organize my office and put things away at the end of my set workday, it spills over and I tend to just do little bits and pieces when I should be sitting down and just recharging myself for the next day. So for me personally, that's a massive one. I normally will finish my workday around 5:30, 6 o'clock whenever I get off TikTok live with you guys. I'll have a shower to reset my mind, get myself in comfy cozy time, and then I will take the time to pack things away, tidy my living space, tidy my office space, and pack it up for the day so that then it does turn into my living space. My space that's cozy and comfy, my space where I turn on my fairy lights, I light my candles, and I just get to, do whatever it is that I want to do for that night. Whether that's just, scroll on TikTok if that's what I feel recharges me for the day, if it's watching YouTube videos, if it's catching up on maths at the moment. Oh, don't even get me started. It's almost over. I don't know what I'm going to do with my week once it's done. I don't know. So yeah, that's a way that I physically organize my space, to also kind of organize it mentally in my mind as well. Going off of that as well, I truly do think that having a starting work time and a finishing work time is truly one of the best things that you will be able to do for yourself. Again, especially if your job is something that you truly enjoy, which if you're a small business owner, it would be. Setting a start and finish time, whatever works best for you and whatever you feel the most comfortable setting, is definitely a tip that I would have. When I first started doing my business, I didn't do this. I didn't set those boundaries in for myself, and I found that I was just getting burnt out. I was working weird times. Like, I was getting up at my alarm, which is 6 a.m. every single day, and I would just I'd scroll on my phone for half an hour to wake up, then I'd get up and get straight into work at 7 a.m. Which, if that is your time frame, there's nothing wrong with that. But the issue was that I would continue to work late into the night. So setting up those boundaries for myself, honestly, game changer. And it is difficult at the beginning, especially, again, if you work for yourself and you are your sole source of income. You feel guilty clocking off at 5-6 p.m. like a normal person, by the way. That's when the rest of the corporate world ends their work day. But when you do have a small business, it is your baby. You want to work so freaking hard on it. And it is difficult to put that boundary in place for your mental health. But honestly, the one thing that I have learned the most, especially throughout the duration of working on my products for this show, I would say, because obviously, you want to feel like you're working all the time and you want to feel like you're progressing. And, the show has been a massive thing, as you guys know, that I've spoken about a lot. And it required a lot of work. But if you don't put those boundaries in place for yourself, you will burn out quicker. And at the end of the day, it's going to be worse for your business than if you were working, 10, 12-hour days, which I am someone who agrees that it's perfectly fine to do those 10, 12-hour days when they are needed. But I have slowly learnt to understand that doing those types of hours every single day is not healthy for you as a person or for your business. And I think it was difficult mainly in the beginning for me because I came from hospitality, a really, really toxic hospitality workplace, to be honest. I've spoken about it a lot when I first left, but my last job, and I think most hospitality jobs, are so incredibly toxic. I was never allowed to take a day off. If I took a day off, I would be punished by getting less hours the next week, which sometimes was a blessing. But most of the time, working minimum wage is difficult. And when you get punished for wanting a day off or taking a mental health day, it fucks with your mind in a way that makes you think that you have to constantly be grinding and working. And hospitality shifts are awful. They're awful. They go for 10, 12. I've worked 15-hour shifts before, and I think coming into my own business from that toxic mentality and that toxic work environment, I thought that the only way that there was to work was those massive hours. I thought that the only way that I was going to get anywhere was if I worked the same hours and the same length and effort, and I can't think of the word that I'm thinking in my head to describe it, but I thought that I had to show up in that same toxic way, which is not true at all. And something that I truly am trying to rewire in my brain is that the amount of hours that you work and how hard you work does not equate to the amount of money that you make in a traditional working environment is something that is ingrained into our brains from as little as 16 when you go into getting your first job. And it's so incredibly toxic. Money does not equal the amount of time or effort that you put into something. Personally, I think the amount of money you make should equate to the amount of value that you're adding or how you show up to something, not how hard you work, how many hours you put in. It should be the value of what you're creating or what you're showing up for. That was a little bit of a tangent, wasn't it? But moral of that whole little explanation was that breaking that toxic mentality of hours worked equals money made is something that is going to be so incredibly important for your growth, your mental health, and for creating that work-life balance. I used to feel so guilty, and there is still some afternoons and nights where I sit on the couch and I'm doing literally nothing other than scrolling on TikTok, and I feel that guilt start to creep in. I'm like, oh my god, I'm literally just scrolling on TikTok. I could be working on designs. I could be creating my next coloring book. I could be wrapping books for the show. And it's so hard. It's so hard. And I truly do believe that that type of mentality is ingrained in us from a young age so that we continue to show up in this world that is built for you to go and work for other people, and you show up for those other people and just grind yourself into the ground, which obviously works for society. It keeps people in jobs, it keeps the world spinning, the money turning. And this is probably a whole separate podcast episode that I could go into about how society is literally made for you to be just running on this hamster wheel the same as everyone else. That's a completely different subject and topic and podcast. If you'd like me to get into my thoughts and feelings on that, which I've kind of touched on a little bit here, but if you want me to do an entire podcast on that topic, please make sure to leave it in a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. I love talking about that shit and I could talk about it for ages. Moral of that very long story is that breaking that cycle and that mental rule, note, whatever you want to call it in your brain that says that time equals money made will be one of the healthiest things that you will do for your work-life balance. Trust me. Trust me. And I'm still working on it. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's something that I have worked on for months, especially in therapy. It's something that I talk about my therapist, Leslie. Shout out to Leslie. We love Leslie here. But it's something that I have spoken about with her a lot because I did come from that toxic grind, work 15-hour mentality. Again, is not good for anyone. It's not good for you. It's not good for your business. It's definitely not good for your relationships. It's not good for anyone, is it? No, it's not. So yeah, the only other things that I have down here for notes on this topic is working on weekends. I would go like a whole month straight and not have a day off, which again comes from, I think, the toxic work environment that I had prior to this one, where I had to work 14, 15 days straight without having a day off. And that was normal. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. It doesn't. That is not normal. And if you are working a job at the moment that requires you to work more than, 7 days in a row without a day off, you deserve better. End of story. You deserve better. We are not put on this earth to continuously grind and work. And I understand that I am in a very privileged position, but I've worked my fucking ass off to get here. And it did take me realizing that I don't deserve that. I deserve better. You deserve better. I promise you that us human beings were not put on this earth to just get in the hamster wheel and grind. And I understand, it's a tough world out there. It really, truly is. Sometimes you do have to work those extra days to be able to make enough money for the things that you need to get that week. And that comes back to what I said a little bit earlier, where if you do need to do those long hours, if you do need to do those overtimes on the weekend, that is okay, as long as you are not constantly doing it and pushing yourself to breaking point, which I think a lot of employers, again, talking from my own experience, which is only in hospitality, other workplaces could be different, but I think a lot of employers just don't think that their employees have a breaking point. And we are all human. We all have breaking points. And I think trying to separate in your mind, taking it back to being, self-employed, working for yourself, running your own business, I think mentally you also need to try and separate boss from employee. You don't want to be the toxic, negative boss to yourself in your mind, saying that you need to work 30 days straight without a break. You need to step into that employee mindset as well and be like, no, I need a break for me. I am a human being. I deserve a day out in the sun. I deserve a cozy rainy day at home to watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts. And I truly do think separating the two in your mind is another really, really good tool and way to be able to separate, bringing it back to the question, being able to separate work and life and creating that balance day to day, week to week, month to month. I've been trying my best to find hobbies outside of my business, which again is another really big tip. I've been trying to get more into baking lately, which I love. And I don't know if you would call this a hobby. I'm going to call it a hobby because I love doing it and it takes time. I love feeding the birds. I love feeding the birds outside my house, and like I'll sit there for 10-15 minutes. I'll feed them, I'll watch them, I'll watch how they interact, I'll see which ones are friends with each other and which ones aren't. I love doing that, and I love baking. So yeah, incorporating other hobbies is super important. I genuinely think that it's all about just listening to yourself, looking inwards, really thinking to yourself, what type of person am I? What do I enjoy doing, and how can I find a schedule that works best for me and my lifestyle? So if you're a morning person, maybe you like to start work early and then you finish work early and you get to have your social time in the afternoon. If you tend to work better at nighttime, maybe you allow yourself to sleep in till 9 or 10, but then you work later at night. I think that is the beautiful thing about working for yourself and being your own boss. It truly is the best thing ever. It's the best thing that I've done for my lifestyle and for my mental health. And at the end of the day, once you've been doing it for a while and you start to get into a bit of a routine, separating the two in relation to who you are as a person and the life you want to live kind of starts to just come naturally. The very last thing that I do want to touch on is Melanie did mention how I manage my time, which falls under the creating a normal 9 to 5 weekday schedule for myself. But I also quickly wanted to mention that to-do lists are literally my best friends. Literally my lifesaver. If I did not have a to-do list, a weekly to-do list, and then a daily to-do list, I would be in shambles. I really would. So managing my time each week becomes a lot easier because of the tools that I put in place to help me to do that. If I write a to-do list of all the things that I need to get done in the week, if I have plans on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m, then I know that the beginning of my week needs to be, working that extra hour or working a little bit quicker paced throughout the day. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm perfect because I'm not. I'm someone who procrastinates the crap out of long tasks. Tasks that take hours and hours intimidate the fuck out of me. Like the thought of having to film 3 podcasts today is a little overwhelming for me, but this is fun. Like I just get to sit down and chit chat. Another overwhelming task for me is editing. Editing just takes hours. It does. Editing a video from start to finish could take me anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, and that is a very intimidating task. And most of the time I will procrastinate the shit out of it until I have no other choice but to do it, which I think just comes down to the type of person that I am. Unfortunately, I'm trying my best to break those habits, but I will say the good thing about my procrastination is that I'm not like procrastinating everything because one task is too much. I will just do all of the little things that I have to do until I'm out of all the little things, and then I have no choice but to do the big things. So I guess that's another way that I manage time, like tackle the little things first, because once you get into a bit of a momentum of like ticking off the little things, you're achieving things. It's giving your brain the dopamine of like, yes, I'm doing this, I'm ticking things off, I'm being productive, and then those bigger tasks become a little bit less daunting because you look at everything else that you've done in the day and you're like, wow, I can do this. Look at all this. I've done so much. This massive task seems so little now because it's just one more thing to tick off on the to-do list. So I think that's where I'm going to leave my little ramble on this topic for today. I did want to sum everything up by just saying you truly do need to just navigate and find what works best for you, your personality, and the lifestyle that you want to live. Because what works for me won't necessarily work for you if we are two completely different people. Everyone wants to live a different lifestyle. You might be the type of person that loves social interaction and you want to spend the time to go out every afternoon, go out on the weekends. So you might be the type of person who needs an even stricter schedule than what I do. What I've covered in today's podcast are just a few of the things that help me the most and the advice that I would give to a friend, obviously. And if you do have a business, or if you want to start a business, if you've been thinking about it, I hope this video gives you the motivation to start. Working for yourself and having your own business is one of the most challenging things that you will ever do in your whole entire life. It is a very, very difficult thing. But if you take the time to look inward on yourself, find out what type of person you are, what type of business you want to create, and figure out a way that you can schedule your life and show up for yourself in the way that you need and in the way that your business needs, then there's no reason why you can't do it and have the best time ever doing it as well. If any of you other business owners have any other advice or want to help Melanie in a way that I didn't touch on in today's video, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. I'm sure all of your comments and advice will help all of the other business owners that are struggling with this same topic. My voice needs to have a little bit of a rest, I think, for the next half an hour before I sit down and start filming the next episode of this podcast. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. When this episode goes live, there is literally 2 days until I leave to go to the city for the show. So please wish me luck. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure to leave a review and give this podcast a 5-star review. That would really, really help me out a lot. And if you're watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and leave me a comment down below with what you would like me to talk about in next week's episode. If you would like to write into our podcast with any advice questions, any business questions, any life questions, anything that you would like, please make sure to email us at tonuretureyoursoulpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, all of your emails on there help me out a lot and they make me smile. They really, truly do. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!